Hello and welcome to week 3. We are now at the halfway mark for the semester. For last week, I didn't see any consistent problems, so overall things are looking good. If we go down to this week, by now you should have gotten your final project article approved by me. The next step of your final project, the summary, is due this week. Remember that all of the details are laid out up above here in the final project assignment. For your summary, you can take a look at this document. For your summary, there is a series of questions you need to answer. Note that although they are listed in question format here, you need to include the answers in paragraph format. So don't just give me bullet point answers to each question. And for the summary, I'm looking for about 2 to 3 pages double spaced for this half of your paper. So basically for next week, what you're going to need to do is you'll need to read your study and identify the constructs that are being studied and how they're operationally defined, and identify the hypotheses. That'll all be in the introduction. Then you'll need to describe the method section. This week we're going to cover independent groups design, which is when different people get each level of the independent variables. Some of you may also have studies that use repeated measures when the same people do each level of the independent variable, or complex designs when there are more than one independent variable. If the independent groups doesn't seem to fit your experiment, you should take a look ahead in the book. From the method section, you'll also need to identify the independent and dependent variables and levels of each, and identify how groups were assigned. Then from the results down here, you'll need to describe what they found. Now, you may not understand every analysis they did, but you should be able to put into words what they found, and in particular, I want you to describe how the independent variable affected the dependent variable. And then finally, from the discussion section, you'll need to summarize the importance of the summary, or of the study, excuse me. So going back to this week's assignment, so that's the first thing you'll need to do. Next, we're covering survey research. Instead of an assignment, this week, your assignment is actually going to be to post on a discussion forum. And basically what you're going to do is imagine that you're designing a survey to identify people who are addicted to Facebook. And you're going to need to come up with items. Your survey items need to be able to be answered on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. So they should be statements, not actual questions. So you're going to come up with your questions based on the guidelines in the notes and the chapter. Once you've posted your own items, you need to read through at least 2 other people's and provide constructive feedback, constructive criticism, and comments for your classmates. For each response that you do, you need to identify for each of these 5 things, either identify an issue or a place where the person did a good job for each of these 5 items here. Next, you also have an extra credit option. Basically, for the extra credit option, what you would do is take and critique a quiz on BuzzFeed or something like that on an internet site, and then you'll post your responses, and there's a series of questions that you need to answer, and then you'll take the Chapter 5 test. The next chapter is independent groups, which is where we're going to come back to the concepts like independent and dependent variables that we covered in the very first week of class. I said those were important. This is coming back to haunt you. So be sure to review those if you really weren't sure about them. For this chapter, you're actually going to have 2 assignments. The first is to read the Schellenberg article up here, and then you have a series of questions about that article. And then you also have an independent groups assignment, which is separate from the article. And then finally, you'll take the Chapter 6 test. As always, please let me know if you have any questions about anything, and have a great week.